Empathy and compassion are verbs. They're not concepts, they're verbs. You can't talk about empathy and be empathetic. You can only show and express empathy and compassion, and the only way you can teach other people to be empathetic and compassionate is to be it, not to talk about it. That's what happens when your society becomes academic. You get people talking about God while they're loading weapons. You get people talking about God where they're chastising and criticizing other religions. You get people welcome you to the church and then in the next breath telling you, we don't allow such and such here. Okay? So the point is, whenever you make the wrong decision, it creates movement that you can experience, which helps you make a better decision. The worst thing you can do is do nothing. That's called apathy. It's called indifference. Children raised by indifferent and apathetic parents have been shown by research to be very, very likely to either get a disease, die, or commit suicide. Apathy or indifference. Indifference is the opposite of love. Hate is not. Children that are physically abused still feel loved and connected to. But children that are ignored become very, very sick and very dysfunctional very quickly. So finally we get to empathetic and compassionate love. The only way you can truly reach empathetic and compassionate loving is if you embrace all world religions as steps to enlightenment. If you realize that all the founders of all world religions had the same vision, and that was to bring humanity together as one family, as one tribe, as one planet. These people do not draw lines on maps. It is amazing that in this country we spend $1 trillion a year to defend lines on a piece of paper. There is no difference between Vancouver, British Columbia, and Seattle, Washington, except an imaginary line. There is no difference between San Diego and Tijuana except an imaginary line, and you spend $1 trillion a year while your country is dying to defend lines on paper. That is not wisdom. That is not love. That is not empathy, and that is not compassion. That is sex and violence loving at its very finest. Until you're brave enough to challenge your own spiritual philosophy by looking at all of them, you are living a dogma. A dogma is a closed-loop system, and it always produces the same results that you've always gotten. Einstein himself said, you cannot solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. We cannot solve the problems of the world today, our own, our relatives, our friends, and people in other countries with the same thinking that created them. We must be brave enough to look at and experience and be present with other people's reality and opinions. I tell my students, true religion is the life we lead, not the creed we profess. I highly recommend, and in one of my training programs, PPS Success Mastery Lesson 2, I actually teach them how to dissect all world religious scriptures with the science of mind, the science of brainwashing, and the science of mind programming, and I show exactly how they've been programmed into sex and violence loving and control by religious doctrine, and I show what happens when the leaders of religions die. Okay? This is a problem. But if you become brave enough to open your eyes, you will find the love that underlies the message of all the original founders, and you will have to do surgery on those documents if you're going to use them at all.